So it's our day 3, well, our video 3. I'm actually filming all these on the same day because I'm trying to catch up with some of the jobs I'm so behind with. And today we are talking about corn. Now, this time of year, again, it's a great time to start sowing your corn if you've got somewhere warm to actually grow it. If you haven't got any cover like a greenhouse poly, or you haven't got space at home or some good lighting conditions, leave it till about mid-May where you can direct sow your corn into the ground. Now, we don't direct sow. We have too many mice and rats around here that do love a little bit of dried corn. So we're not going to be doing that. We are going to be sowing into module trays. Now, this is the trays that I'm going to be sowing into. It's just standard module trays. They're a little bit bigger than some of the smaller ones, obviously, that you can get. And that's what I'm going to be growing it into. Now, last year I made the mistake of taking too long to actually get them out into the ground. And I'm hopefully this year I'm going to be better timed for them. If I have to delay planting for whatever issue, whether it's torrential rain or the weather really has took a turn for the worse, I'll actually put them into slightly bigger pots. And this is probably the size pot I will probably pot them into. But I'm hoping, because it's the beginning of May, that hopefully by mid-May, that's our frost date well and truly over. In fact, I do think our last frost date is the beginning of May. But this year, you just never know. And the light this year has been so poor for our growing conditions that I'm kind of just having a backup plan for everything that I'm doing this year. Now, last year we grew a rising sun and a sweet corn called amaze. Now, the amaze I absolutely adored. It was so tasty. A very pale looking corn, but it really is a super sweet corn. Now, we harvested quite a lot of both the rising sun and the amaze. Both were absolutely delicious. And I've still got a little bit of corn left in the freezer, but not much. And that's only because I'm trying to space it out before we get any new fresh corn. Now, corn is a fantastic thing to freeze. It does freeze really, really well. Either whole on the cob, or you can remove those kernels and they'll freeze beautifully also. So you can have a nice big bag of frozen sweet corn in your freezer. But this year I wanted a bit of a change. So I am going to go with Incredible. Now, I've got 2 lots of Incredible, 2 different types of seeds. So I'm going to be interested to see how these go. Now, I've got a largest block of an area to grow my sweet corn. Now, last year, because I grew 2 different varieties, I had it in 2 completely different areas. One at the bottom of the plot, which did okay, and then one at the top of the plot. What you need to be careful with is that you don't allow cross-pollination of certain types of sweet corn. If I remember rightly, if you grow a super sweet very, very close to something that's more of an ornamental or a different type of sweet corn, you could mess up your varieties somewhat. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So if you're growing different varieties of sweet corn, you need it in separate areas. Now, the interesting thing about sweet corn is that it's wind pollinated. So this is why it's really quite important to sow it or plant it in blocks, not rows. Now, I have an area that's probably, I'm going to guess now, it's around about 10, maybe 12 foot. And then probably about 15 foot wide or deep, I think it is. So I've got a reasonable amount of space. Now, each one of these plants are going to be planted about 1 foot apart. Some people say 2 foot, some people say 1 foot, but I'm actually going to put them in at 1 foot apart and see how well they do. Now, this area is where I grew sweet corn last year. So I'm hoping this year it shouldn't be too much of an issue. It's had a heavy mulch of leaves through the winter months. But unfortunately, when we took on that side of the plot, there was an awful lot of volunteer potatoes that were actually left in the ground, and these have been sprouting left, right and centre. So we've been trying to remove those because it's the last thing I want when I'm planting my sweet corn is competition from potato plants. These can be quite hungry, the same as those potato plants, so I don't want things competing too much when I'm trying to grow a crop that I actually want to grow in the ground. I always overgrow my corn because there is so many things that actually love to eat this corn. Be it the little mouse that lives in here somewhere, he does love to go through my pots, and I have lost an awful lot of seedlings this year to that mouse. Or, as it's starting to sprout, again, it's those slugs and snails issues. So it is definitely something I'm going to be planting an awful lot of. And in fact, there's 50 seeds in this one and there's 40 seeds in that one. And I think I'm actually going to pretty much sow both of these seed packets. I should have enough room. And if they all survive and I don't have any losses, which is very, very doubtful, then I'll just have to find another area I can put the sweet corn in. But it shouldn't be too much of an issue because I'm just growing the one variety. Now these can get quite tall, but they do like a good growing season. So long as it's not too wet and cool through our summer months, these should be fantastic. And last year our corn grew really quite tall. Not as tall and healthy as I would have liked, but we did get an awful lot of cobs from that sweet corn. And there is nothing better than freshly picked sweet corn off the plant, cooked within an hour. It is an amazingly sweet vegetable to eat. So when I'm sowing these, I am just going to be sowing one in each pot. And if they don't germinate within a few days, I will just pop another seed in. So I may hold back 10 or more seeds, just in case I have failed germinations on some of the seeds. They don't like to have multiple plants in the same pot, and then separating them can make them very, very unhappy. So I will be planting these ones individually into those module trays. Hopefully by now, this week especially, that's coming now, it's supposed to be much, much warmer. You wouldn't think it today. I've got my big, heavy, baggy jumper on and the wind is horrendous. But they'll be in the greenhouse, either this one or the other greenhouse, which it'll probably be that one because the mouse can't access my new little table in there. And they'll happily, hopefully, germinate here in our greenhouses. I don't want anything else germinating at home. I haven't got the space. I'm losing my marbles because I have got plants and things everywhere, and I need some normality back in my life. So these are going to be sown today, and hopefully I'll have a good germination. So again, guys, your favourite sweet corn. What is it? And if you've never grown sweet corn, are you going to try it for the first time this year? And what type of sweet corn are you hoping to grow? If it's your first time of growing sweet corn, just make sure that you are planting in a big square, in a big block. It's really quite important for that wind pollination. Otherwise, you'll end up with a load of cobs that have got no sweet corn in it, and it's really disappointing as you're peeling back that sweet corn and it is empty. So let me know in the comments, guys, what you're sowing this year and when you are sowing it, and what's your best, favourite, tastiest that you've grown in your own growing space.